Welcome back to episode 3 of my How to Make a Roblox Airline series. In this episode, we'll be focusing on setting up our first aircraft, which include making a livery, setting up the seats, and overall preparation for our first aircraft. Anyways, let's get on with the video. Now, in the last episode, we focused on looking for technology for our Roblox Airline. I went through a bunch of different tech groups that sell aircrafts, airports, seats, any other assets or technology that you might need for your Roblox Airline. And now we're going to use some of that technology into use. Now, as you see, we're in Roblox Studio right now. We're going to learn how to set up our first aircraft, which include setting up the livery, the seats, and overall just configuring the plane and like going through the settings and stuff. Now, as you see, I've gotten 2 planes here instead of 1, and I have that for a very specific reason. This is an Airware A320. This is a really good aircraft, more on the expensive side. A lot of Roblox airlines use this airplane because it's just really good. This is a mesh aircraft, and here is a CSG CRJ 900. Now, I purposely have 2 different kind of aircrafts. I have a mesh one and a CSG because I want to show you how to do the liveries on both types of aircrafts. Now, I will have to say that doing mesh aircraft liveries is a ton easier than CSG, and it's a lot easier to make more complex liveries with mesh aircrafts rather than CSG, and you'll see why later in the video. And I'm also using this aircraft for the airline just to prove that you don't need expensive aircrafts to have a good airline. This aircraft only costed me about 300 Robux. Yeah, it's not going to be the most like highest quality aircraft, but from what I've seen so far, like damn, we got a pretty like decent interior in here, and like the cabin interior is not that bad actually. Like we could definitely use this as like a first aircraft for your Roblox airline. So I'm using 2 planes. I'm using an expensive one and a much more affordable one just to prove that you don't need to necessarily have a good expensive aircraft when you're starting a Roblox airline. Obviously, maybe you might want to reconsider down the road, but just to start up, like you don't need to go that far. I mean, now I've also gotten some seats here. These are some economy and first class seats from American. So yeah. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make the livery first. So let's go ahead and do the livery. So in order to make a livery, you will need to use a photo editing software. You're really free to choose which one you want, but I'm going to use paint.net because it's free and a lot of people use it, and it's just like I think the most accessible, and it's advanced enough to where you could actually make liveries on paint.net. So I would suggest using paint.net. Now you want to open the file in which you got your aircraft. Typically they'll have a certain folder dedicated to UV maps, and you want to click the maps and you want to find the UV maps. And now the UV maps is what we use to map out what the livery is going to look like. It gives you a base kind of outline of the aircraft, and you just kind of you basically just like draw over it the kind of livery you want. So you want to load those UV maps into paint.net. Now I've gone ahead and loaded in all the UV maps. As you see, this is the left side of the aircraft, the right side, and you also can customize the engines and winglets. Basically, what you do is you just add another layer to the top of it. Actually, what I first would do is I would actually add a white background. I'm not sure if this is necessary, but this is usually what I do. I would add a white background and move the layer down here so it looks less cluttery. I mean, it looks much easier to work with. So I would do that. And basically what you do is you just add extra layers above it, and you kind of just work around and like kind of draw, like let's say I can draw something here. You can make like an aircraft livery right here. You can change the color. It's actually a lot more simpler to make a mesh livery than you think it is. It just depends on how complex you want your livery to be. You could have a simple livery, or you could, I mean, it really just depends. But I'm going to go ahead and do a time lapse. I'm going to go ahead and make a livery for Kiwi Air, and I'm just going to time lapse and you can kind of see how I do it. And yeah, I'll see you guys then. Now, I forgot to mention this, but when making a livery, it is important to establish one thing: airline branding. You want to think of a certain theme or brand for an airline that's going to help you stand out more. And what I mean by that is coming up with a logo for your airline, coming up with a brand color. For example, mine's going to be green, and as you see, I'm kind of made the logo already. But you want to think of a brand theme and like color that's going to help make your airline stick out. That is very important, and that'll help you with making your livery. Okay, so I finished the airline livery, I guess. It's kind of a simple one. I've got the airline name over here, and then I have like a little tail design. I honestly don't know if this is gonna look good. We're just gonna have to see once we upload it into Roblox. Now, as you can see, the way you make liveries, it doesn't need to be like perfect. Like the color, like it doesn't have to match the aircraft exactly. As long as the color is just like over the like main like outline of the aircraft, then it's fine. It's still gonna work. As you see, what I did here is perfectly fine. The livery is gonna work perfectly. So I also included like a aircraft registration thing. I probably should change this to white. I think it look better in white, but I think adding an aircraft registration is a bit more realistic in my opinion, and I think it's just nice. So I would highly suggest you do that. I just made up a random registration. It might be the one of a real aircraft that exists, hopefully not, but and then just put the country where it's from. You know, that's always pretty nice. Since my airline is based in New Zealand, I put the New Zealand flag. So there we go. That would look better, I think. Hopefully, I don't know. We're gonna have to put this into Roblox and see. I can't really vision how it'll look like right now, but hopefully it's good. Hopefully it is. But so next, what you want to do is you want to save the picture. Now, this really depends on what kind of aircraft you have. First of all, you want to delete the frame. You have the livery done. You don't need it anymore. Just delete that and just leave everything as it is right now. Don't touch anything because we have everything set in a certain position where it's going to basically fit on the aircraft. It's going to wrap itself around the aircraft in that specific position, basically. And depending on what kind of aircraft you're using, you could just save the whole picture and upload just one picture and then put it on your aircraft. But I think for Airware, we have to split it into multiple parts and then upload each part separately. So yes, for Airware, as you see, there are like little green lines. That's basically separating what parts you need to cut out and like upload separately. So what we want to do basically is kind of just highlight the certain area. You can hold shift to get like a perfect square. That usually will meet right at the line. So you want to do that. You can go ahead and delete the background. We won't need this anymore. Actually, first, what you want to do, this is very important. Before you do anything, you need to merge all the layers. So make sure all the layers have been merged because then it'll, it's all like in one now. So you want to do that. What I usually do, I just copy it, make a new thing right here, and then I just save it from there. So I'm going to save it into my files, and then I delete this, and then I just go like, I just zoom in really closely here and then try get it perfectly matching. There we go. And then I kind of just do the same thing. Oh, I don't know what happened there. I don't know why I did that. But you basically just need to split it into different pieces. There we go. Copy that. There. Save as that. There we go. And then you want to do the last part as well. Now, before you do anything, I would undo everything you just did, get back the layers and everything, because we're gonna need this later. So, and you'll see why, because this is just one side of the aircraft. We're gonna have to do the same thing on the other side of the aircraft. So just hold on to this while we get the other side done. Now, before I continue working on this livery, I want to see if it actually works well in Roblox. So that's what we're gonna do. So now that we have our picture saved, you want to go into the creator dashboard. Basically go to Roblox, click create, and then go to creations, and then go to development items, and then go to decals. There you'll be able to upload the assets. As you can see, I have a bunch of my other liveries here. This is not the first time I've done this, but you just want to upload the individual pictures that you've saved. So boom, just like that. Like you don't even need to name or anything, just upload it. And there you go. We've now uploaded the pictures. It's going to take some time to load, but don't worry. Now we want to go into Roblox Studio. Now here is the plane we're going to work with. First off, I would go over here into your toolbox and go into your decals, and you'll be able to find your pictures right over here. As you see, they've already loaded in. Perfect. Now, as you see, it really depends by aircraft, but basically what you want to do is you want to find like the mesh part that makes up the fuselage part of the aircraft, and you want to basically change the texture on that mesh part of the aircraft. As you can see with Airware, they label the parts as livery, so you just need to change the texture ID. And basically what you can do is you just copy the asset ID right here, and you just paste it into here. As you see, we've gotten part of our aircraft delivery already loaded in. Now we just need to do the second part. Same thing, just copy the ID right here, and then you can go ahead and put it in. Just go to the surface appearance. Like I said, it really just depends what mesh aircraft you're using. It works differently. I'm just showing you how it works for Airware, but it's pretty similar between all types of mesh aircrafts. You just highlight the mesh part of the fuselage. There'll be like a texture that you change, and that's how you put the livery on there. Now, as you can see, we have some parts missing over here. We need to also include it in these kind of mesh textures right here. So you also want to do that right here. There you go. It's pretty simple, like I told you. And as you see, this is what the livery looks like now. I guess the livery is kind of okay. I don't know. I might want to make a few different changes to it. I don't know. I'll have to see. But as you can see, there's like a little white line here. I think I messed something up when I was saving, like cutting up the pictures and saving it. So just be careful with that. I'm probably going to have to redo that. But as you can see, here is the general livery kind of idea what we're working with. I think it's pretty all right. Like I said, I might want to make a few changes to it, but now we have to do the same thing on the other side, because as you see, the other side is not really working, and I'll show you how to basically like just copy it and mirror it on the other side right now. So now there's a bunch of different ways to do this, but this is just how I find it the easiest way. I kind of learned how to do this myself, but I'm sure there's like a more like easier way to do this, but this is just a way that I know works for sure. Basically what I do is I kind of just get rid of the background, right? I kind of just get rid of all this, and then I merge all the layers together, and then I copy it. So oops, make sure the whole thing is selected, and then I kind of make a new layer here, and I just, now as you see, we have to flip it. So what I would do basically is just I take this, I make sure it's lined up, and I kind of just drag it like this, and then it goes the other way, and then I kind of just move it to where it fits onto the actual screen itself. Try keeping it as perfect as possible. I kind of made a mistake here, but yeah, I just move it all the way through until it reaches the end, and that's just my way of doing it, and you know, it works, so that's pretty good, I guess. So as you see, obviously we need to go ahead and redo the text because you know, the text is backwards now, so there's still some modifications you have to do, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. All right, and there you go. I've made the changes to the livery, and there we go. I've gone ahead and done the other side of the aircraft. Now, we also need to do the engines and the wingtips, but I'm not going to show you how to do that because it's basically the same thing. In fact, I think it's easier to do the engines and winglets than the plane itself. But yeah, that's how you do the livery of a mesh plane. Here we have a CSG plane, and I'm going to show you how to do a livery on the CSG plane. Now, it is in fact very different on a CSG plane. It is a lot harder, and honestly, this is just one of the reasons why people prefer mesh planes over CSG planes. But I'm going to try walking you through this as well and show why it's not necessarily the most pleasant thing to do in my opinion. But yeah, so basically with the CSG plane, we're not gonna like go into paint.net and try drawing out the livery. We actually need to build the livery itself. And you're probably wondering, what do you mean by build the livery? Well, I'll show you right now. Basically, we have a fuselage parts right here. Now, basically, the plane is made up of a bunch of fuselage parts as seen right here. We have a fuselage part here, right here, and basically, you have to color in these fuselage parts to make the livery. We could make a very simple livery like this by just changing the colors of these to, let's say, I don't know, green or something, right? Like, let's say this color green, and make sure you click Use Part Colors. Technically, this livery would work, but this is a very basic livery. Honestly, it looks boring. We want to put a bit more detail into that. Now, basically, what we have to do is chop up the fuselage parts into other pieces and then color those pieces into the color that we want, which will then make up the livery. Now, as you can see, you probably don't even understand what I just said, but I'm going to go ahead and show you and it'll make more sense. Now, I'm going to be doing a simpler design because I think doing this kind of design on here would be not the most pleasant experience to do. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a very simple livery design. So I'm going to be modifying the fuselage right here and also this tail part right here. And I'm going to go ahead and move it out. Now, I'm going to move it one stud so like I can properly fit it back in place when I'm done. So I'm just going to move it out to the side right here, and I'm going to make a few extra ones just in case because we're going to need multiple pieces. Now, basically, I want to make a livery something like this. So what I'm going to have to do first is I'm going to have to take a part, and we're going to have to chop this up into pieces. So basically, I'm going to start off with the first part, which is going to be the little gray outline right here. So how I'm going to do that is I'm just going to make this big block. I'm going to tilt it to the side. And basically, the edge of this block is what's going to mark the beginning of the gray line. Now, we're not going to need the rest of this fuselage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the block fills in the whole fuselage and click this button called negate. And that'll turn it into this red see-through block. Now we don't want the whole back of the aircraft to be gray, so we're going to go ahead and make another block right here and then just move it like this. There we go. And then move it up to where it fills in the rest. Now, before we do anything, we need to take into consideration about the other pieces. We're going to need the fuselage part in front of the livery and then the green part behind it as well, not just the line. So, we're going to take this, we're going to move it here again, but this time, we're going to make sure it fills in the entire thing. Just like so, and then delete this. This will account for the white part of the fuselage. And then we need to do the same thing, but just for the green part of the fuselage. I know this might be a bit confusing, but it'll make a whole lot more sense once we get there. And then just do that. So now we have all of our pieces ready to be unioned. So what we're going to do is, we're going to highlight all the fuselage parts, and we're also going to highlight the 2 negative blocks. Then we're going to click union. It's going to take a second, it's going to take a second. It might be a bit slow, but just let it work through. And there you go. We've gotten our piece right here. Now we're going to do the same for the other part of the fuselage. Just like that. And then we're going to click union as well. There you go. It now works. And now we're just going to do the same thing one last time, but for this part. Now we got all our pieces here, we're going to try moving it back into the plane. Now, first of all, we need to delete the other parts of the fuselage. We no longer need these because we have our different pieces ready. So we're going to delete these, and then we're going to move these one by one. So I'm going to move this big fuselage part first. There you go, it fits just in place. And then I do this part. Try doing it as accurately as you can. I'm not doing the best job right now, but try making sure it fits in like perfectly. Now we have everything in place, we can color it the way how we want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and make this gray, and make sure you click use part color or else it's not going to work. And then I'm going to make this part green as well. As you see, we have a much better design. Now obviously this is a very simple design, but you can see why it's really hard to make sophisticated liveries with CSG, because it's just a lot more time consuming. You can have a bunch of tiny errors like this, and overall it's just more of a pain in the butt in my opinion. Doing a mesh livery is a lot easier and it just looks a lot cleaner. This is why I don't really recommend doing CSG liveries. And also, as you see, this part isn't as smooth as this part anymore. For some reason, I don't know, whenever you union something, it like chops it up. I think there's a plugin that could help you smooth it out, but yeah, there's just so many problems that comes to CSG. In my opinion, I don't recommend doing it, but I'm just showing you how to do it anyway, just in case, since I know some of you might prefer CSG. Now, it is also, as you see, the 3 parts we unionized, they're not actually part of the plane. If we move the plane, they're not connected. So when you fly the plane, it's not going to work. So we need to make sure that these parts are actually part of the plane. So just select these parts and then move it to where all the other unions are, which is in the fuselage. All aircrafts have a similar setup like this. They have like a loader thing, settings, and then animation parts, and then they have like a door, engine 1, engine 2. They all have a similar setup here, so it is pretty self-explanatory to understand where to put everything. But as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of the livery. Now, we're going to move on to the next part of the video, aircraft seats. we're going to actually set up the seats on the aircraft. Now we're going to go ahead and put these on the plane. So basically what we're going to start off doing first is I'm just going to move the economy seats into the plane itself and then just see where I can work with. And we're going to notice our first issue. Well, actually, we don't really have an issue right now, but just in this case. But if you'll notice in a lot of other aircrafts, you might notice, oh, I want a 3-3 seat configuration on my aircraft because that's the most realistic type for an A320. But you'll notice that it won't actually fit. You could only fit 2 seats, not 3. Well, in this case, you basically will just have to make the plane slightly bigger by using the scale tool right here. You just have to like increase it and make it slightly bigger. That's really the only way you could really do it. Just my economy seats are really narrow and thin, so they're able to fit in a 3-3 seat configuration. But you see, even then, you see the dots where like the cabin aisles marked. The seats kind of go over that. So I have to resize the plane a bit so the seats can actually fit properly. Now, this may give off some weird scaling, and if you don't like how the plane is scaled, like the cabin interior might be too big for you, you can always do a 2-2 seat configuration, but I just think it's much more realistic if there's a 3-3 seat configuration. But now I want to go ahead and make some modifications to my seat first. As you see, it's just a plain color. I kind of want it to match it with the theme of my airline. As you see, that my airline is a dark green theme, so I kind of want to have the seats match with it. So I'm going to go ahead and take the seats itself. Actually, I think it's better just to move this out of the plane so it's just easier to work with. Basically, I'm going to highlight all the seat parts, and you can do this by holding Alt and then holding Shift at the same time and clicking. I'm just going to change the colors to be a slightly dark green. Alright, I think this shade of green works a lot better, so I'm happy with keeping this back into the plane. Now with aircraft seats, it may work a bit differently depending on what kind of seats you have. Some might be animated and some might be non-animated. Now, if you have animated seats, you want to go ahead and read the instructions on how to set it up, because there's a certain way how to do it so that the animations will work when you're putting it into the airplane. Now, as we can see, they've provided us an instructions right here. Now, place this model named Ameritan Echo into the other parts folder of your aircraft. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to take this folder and we're going to move it into the other parts folder of your aircraft. So let's go ahead and look for it. Now it says put it in the other parts folder, but as we can see with Airware, they don't actually have a folder that says other parts. So usually with all other planes, it has a main parts folder and then an other parts folder, but not with Airware. But I think I just need to put it into body. That's just going to make the most sense to put it in there. Now, it says drag the animations model within the row to the animations part folder of your aircraft. Basically, we're going to have to drag the animations into the animations folder of our aircraft, which as we can see, it says animation parts. So we're just going to go ahead and put that in there. And now what we have to do is duplicate the row and animation models. So basically, when we duplicate the aircraft seats, we're not duplicating the seat itself, we're duplicating 2 different parts. The animated part of the seat, which seems to be the back, like kind of back part of the seat, and then the non-animated part. And now with these, we can move it around and place as many seats as we would like. So it's very simple. You just kind of do this. You kind of just duplicate it, basically. That's basically what you're doing. So you just do that a bunch of times. Now, obviously, you can see I'm not being very well with the spacing. I'm being very inaccurate with my spacing, but try to be as accurate with your spacing as possible. I'm kind of doing a sloppy job right now, but you kind of get the gist of it. And then once you have all that, you can copy all the rows here and then copy all the animations here and move it to the other side. It may be a bit laggy, but as you can see, there we go. We've gone ahead and moved it to the other side. And basically, we just need to do the same thing for the first class seats. So first, I'm going to go ahead and modify, make changes to it to the color that I like. And once I've done that, I can go ahead and move this back into the aircraft. I can move it around, make sure it fits. And then basically do the same thing, set it up. And once I've done that, I can go ahead and move it back as much as I want. I'll say very minimalistic cabin interior. I think I kind of had the spacing here a bit too far out. I don't want like the spacing to be too big. So I'm definitely going to have to make some changes to that. But it's not too bad though. Now, one more thing you have to do with your aircraft is you actually have to not set up the aircraft, but you want to go through the settings. So you want to just look through the settings. I would advise not touching like the stall speed, max speed, acceleration. Don't mess with that. They have it set up a certain way so it flies realistically. But you want to change your the group lock to true, and then put your group ID and then put like the staff rank. Basically, you don't want random passengers coming into the plane and flying the plane. You want it to be staff locked to where only staff can fly the plane. So you want to do that. You want to make sure you adjust the settings for that. Now, when making a Roblox aircraft, it is very important to test the aircraft. Now, basically, what we need to do is we need to go in game and actually see if the aircraft works, if all the seats are working properly, and just make sure the aircraft's working, basically. And first thing what you want to do is save the aircraft. And to do that, just head to Explore, right-click on the aircraft, click Save/Export, save to Roblox. You can give it any title you want, and then in Asset category, click Model. And for the creator part, set it to your airline right there, and then just click Save, and that is it. Now, once you have saved the aircraft, you want to copy the ID here. This is the ID. The ID is basically what we're going to use to insert the plane into the game. So you can go ahead and close that. And I'm going to save this aircraft as well, and then we're going to head into a game to test it. Now, before we test, it is very important that we actually create a game so that we can test it. You do not want to test your aircraft in Roblox Studio. For some reason, aircrafts act different when it's in Roblox Studio compared to when you actually play in a game. So you actually need to publish the game and try out the aircraft once you're there. Now, before we do that, I would suggest putting some admin commands. I would recommend Adonis admin. This is the admin commands that every airline uses. We can go ahead and get rid of this. We don't need that. But just make sure you have the Adonis loader in there, or any admin commands honestly work. But like I said, Adonis is just the most used one. One more thing you need to do is you need to go to game settings, head to security, and make sure you allow HTTP requests. All right, and we are now in the game, and we're going to go ahead and check out how the aircrafts are doing. Now, as we can see, I've got some more work to do with the CRJ aircraft. For some reason, the text flipped over like this, so I got to see what's going on there. But let's see how the inside of the aircraft's doing. All right, and here we are. The seats look fine so far. I do notice that the back of the seat here is missing. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. And the animations don't seem to work on here either. So it must have been something I've done wrong, even though I followed the instructions properly. Installing animated seats isn't always perfect, and you just need to read the instructions really carefully. And if that doesn't work, you can always head to the customer support in the tech group where you got the seats from. In my case, I've heard a lot of instances with Airware planes where animated seats don't work, so this isn't just a one-time thing. I've heard it's kind of a common issue with Airware planes. I don't know. I'm going to have to figure out what's going on, and that's the beauty of running a Roblox airline. Not everything's going to go perfectly, and you constantly need to problem solve and figure out how to fix things. I know it may be irritating, and trust me, it irritates me too, but that's just part of running a Roblox airline. You're always going to come up with issues like this. Let's actually make sure the plane is working. So we're going to head into the captain's seat right here, and voila, beautiful Airware plane kit. I'm just going to move it like this, and hey, at least the plane moves, which is nice. So at least we put the seats on properly so that the plane's moving. So that is nice. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. In episode 4, we're going to be focusing on setting up our first airport and kind of getting the airport ready for the flight, and kind of just getting the airport ready for flights and kind of the overall just preparing your airport kind of thing. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.